When you're building your cybersecurity program or risk program or really anything, what is the right approach? Do you take a top down approach or do you do a bottom up approach? Well, the answer is yes. You do both. I work with companies all the time, and it's interesting because these programs have definite like textbook kind of ways to do them, and so that would be your top down approach, where you start at the program level, you look across, what are the domains or the modules, whatever they're called, depending on your framework and what you're calling them, and then how do you build your program down. That's great, a great way to do things. But back here in the real world, most companies have some kind of pieces, part of something already in place and already available, right? So then you can't take this textbook top down approach like nothing else exists and just in a bubble design this thing from the top down. It's just not practical in the real world. It's very strategic. It's a great approach. It's definitely the textbook way to do things, and you get that enterprise and that holistic view. So it's really is the right way to do things. However, in the real world, things are in flux, they're in flight. When I worked for a large banking institution with all the governance, risk, and compliance activities, we had so many regulators who would come like all the time. It was just regulators after regulators. I think one year I counted, we had like 41 audits in a year, which was insanity. But they were audits, internal, external, regulators. I mean, all over the place, right? And so I kind of felt like it was hard to ever get like traction from this kind of top down theoretical holistic approach, because I'm constantly having to like respond to this and respond to this. And then regulators would say, well, now you need to do it this way, or now you need to put this in place, or how come you're not doing that? And it's like this constant tactical knee jerk kind of reaction. And it's hard because you're trying to satisfy that because you're still running your business. But on the flip side, you're trying to have kind of this holistic way of doing things. So, how do you deal with that? Well, the answer is you do both, right? Like you take your top down approach, you do that, you have your strategic view, but then you take this bottom up approach where, okay, what do we have? And this is the widest expanse. Like, do we have a control set? Okay, great, let's start with that. Do we have a list of risks? Okay, great, let's start with that. Do we have frameworks we use already? Do we have certifications? What do we have? Okay, get all that. Now let's start to accumulate that and let's start to take that bottom up and pull it together with this top down approach so that you accomplish both, right? That's the goal, is both. You achieve the strategic view where you're looking top down to protect the organization, the whole organization, not just this slice or this slice that a more tactical approach would typically take. But then you're also looking at what do we have already? What can we leverage? And then ultimately you need to pull all that in to the overall program and the overall approach. So it really is taking these two ways of looking at things to pull it all together. And it takes time. It's iterative. I tell companies this all the time. Do not try to do all this stuff in a day. There is no easy answer, so to speak, for this. So just take it off in iterations. Like, put a stake in the ground, do something small. Forward progress, that's really what all this is about, is forward progress, consistent action, maturity. But maturity doesn't happen overnight. Just look at how a child grows, or anything. It takes time, and you've got to feed it well and teach it and grow it up and correct it and all of these different things, right? Well, it's no different with our cybersecurity programs and our risk management programs. Same exact approach. We want to mature them over time, but we can't tell the kids, stop growing for a minute, just stay right there till I figure out how we're going to do this. It doesn't work, right? You got to kind of meet the two in the middle. And so it's just this very creative kind of approach in working with companies of, okay, let's put in the enterprise holistic approach, but let's look at what you've got and let's bring those two together. And then the beauty is once you get them married together, the cool thing is you've got a nice strategic approach that spans your organization and that really is giving you that protection protection and that value into your organization, but you also have this very tactical level that's accomplishing the day to day and that's helping you stay protected day to day. And then you have a really great foundation that you can just build upon year over year or month over month, whatever your cadence is, whatever your resource, your bandwidth is. That's what you just want to keep baking into that program and just maturing it and growing it and growing it. But once you kind of bring those two together, now you have that really good foundation upon which to grow. And then it's a matter of just keeping your mindset that it's priority and staying focused and having a plan to just continue that growth, continue those iterations, continue that maturity, because your company is changing, the world is changing. This stuff is never like done. It's never set it and forget it. It really is just trying to be fluid and move and be responsive to the threats and the risks that exist, and then what do we do to deal with those, and how do we leverage what's going on in the world for best practice, and just pulling all of that together to achieve the end result, which is ultimately to stabilize your business from a security perspective, keep your data safe, make sure your companies have or your customers have assurance that yes, you're on top of your game and you got this. Would appreciate it if you would share the video.